So today I'd like to share with you something fascinating that's written in a book called Sefer Katon. This was a book authored by a 13th century rabbi that lived in France. His name was Rabbi Yitzhak of Courbet. And in that book he discusses and analyzes the different commandments of the Torah. So in the very first part of his book, he talks about a fascinating idea regarding the first commandment of the Ten Commandments. As we know, God gave the Jewish people at Mount Sinai 10 commandments. And he explains what exactly is that first commandment. The other commandments seemingly are logical, they make sense, we can understand them. But what does the first commandment really mean? So let me quote for you what he writes. So the first commandment was, I am God, your God, who has taken you out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. This you could find in Exodus chapter 20, verse 2. The Smak says, what is included in this commandment? He explains that based on the Talmud, when one passes away, everyone becomes judged. There's a judgment. And one of the very first questions one is to be asked when he enters that world is Tzipisa Yeshua. Did you long for salvation? Did you wait for Moshiach's coming? So the Smak asks, where in the world do we find such a commandment? We pass away, we're asked, did you fulfill this? Where does it say we should fulfill such a thing? Where is it commanded to us? And so the Smak concludes that in truth, this obligation of awaiting and longing for salvation is included in the very first commandment of the Ten Commandments. And I'll quote for you. Just as we must believe that God took us out of Egypt, as it is written, I am God, your God, who has taken you out from the land of Egypt, the Smak says, so too God tells us that you have to believe that I am God, your God, who will yet gather you and save you. In other words, Moshiach is obviously integral to the whole Jewish belief, as we explained in previous videos. But according to commentaries, such as the Smak, it's so fundamental that this actually is inherent in the very first of the Ten Commandments.